Hey, hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jesse, and today I'm bringing you a book yap session, which you could call every video on my channel a book yap session, but I'm starting this series called Book Yap Session, where I just gather some books that I've read recently and I just yap about them. This is basically going to be my version of like a recent reads video. I'm starting this series because I've been reading a lot recently, but I haven't really been vlogging a lot recently. I've kind of fallen off the vlog wagon. Will I board it again someday? Hopefully. I would love to get back on that wagon, but I've still been reading, I just haven't been vlogging it, so I wanted some kind of like series where I could just sit down and just yap about some books that I've read recently. So that's what this is. Today I'm going to be talking about 5 books that I've read recently, and I'm going to yap about them. Have I already said yap way too many times in this video? Absolutely. Am I going to say it 500 more times? No, but I am going to say it too many times. For the books that I'm going to be talking about, there are 2 that like really stood out to me, and then there are 3 that I didn't really vibe all that well with, but I feel like they're books that people might enjoy, so I still want to talk about them with you guys. I'm going to share my thoughts, opinions, feels with you guys. It's going to be a yappy time. Feel free to join me in the comments. Let's do a little yap sesh in the comments section. Let's get started. The first book I do not have a physical copy of, but I will be getting a physical copy because I loved it so much, and that is this book called Checked Out. This is a cozy murder mystery. This book kicks off with a blind date gone wrong. We've got Anne, our main character, who is a librarian, and one of her patrons ends up setting her up on a blind date. But when she shows up for the date, which happens to be at the guy's house, which let me just say, if you're planning on going on a blind date and the other person wants you to meet them at their house, don't do that. That's dangerous. Red flag, hello, hanging right in front of your face. Why are you grabbing the red flag and running with it? Like, don't do that. She shows up to her blind date's house. She's ringing the doorbell. He's not answering. She circles back to the back of the house because she smells like a barbecue situation. So she's like, oh, maybe he just doesn't hear me and he's out back grilling. But when she goes back there, she finds her date murdered in a very gruesome way. That's all I'll say. Anne finds herself wrapped up in this mystery and trying to figure out who murdered her blind date. This honestly is everything that I want in a cozy mystery book. The vibes were immaculate. A majority of the story is set in a library. Our main character is a librarian, and the atmosphere of that was just like so cozy, so chill, so warm, despite all the chaos surrounding the library and the things that are happening in it, and the murder. One of the first things that happens in this book is like a cat rescue mission. Our main character, a librarian named Anne, she has to rescue these 2 cats that are in danger, and one of them ends up becoming the library cat. And that part of the story just like really stood out to me. I loved seeing them kind of work out how they were going to keep it, what they were going to name it, and just how it would all work. I just loved that aspect. And honestly, the cat is the selling point of this series. I am very excited to read the next book. Not for like the cat alone, but I am excited that the cat is going to be like a reoccurring character. The cat is for sure a bonus in me continuing with the series because I can't wait to just like get updates on the cat and see how it's doing. The mystery itself is really interesting as well, specifically like the murder scene. I was not expecting it to be as brutal as it was, but when she finds the body, you see the situation, you're like, oh, okay, that's quite brutal. That's a quite brutal way to go, brother. Rest in peace. Cheers to you. I will say it's really surprising that a murder would happen in a town like the one that this book takes place in, just because it's described as like this really quiet, peaceful, cottage-esque town, and then there's also murder happening. It's like, it's not really adding up, but I guess that's like the point of a cozy murder mystery. Small town, cozy vibes, and murder. I will say that when I'm reading cozy murder mysteries, there are times when I just like have a hard time buying into the main character getting involved in these like murder situations and becoming these like amateur sleuths. But I feel like with our main character Anne, we really get to know why she would even get involved in something like this. Not only is she a librarian, which I feel like librarians have it in them to just like help people, so it makes sense that she would want to just like dive in and help. But then you have this like layer of the fact that her mom was murdered and her boyfriend got killed by a drunk driver, and so she just like has this natural instinct to want to be involved and figure out this murder situation. I mean, also it was her blind date that got murdered, so I'm sure she's just like curious as it is, but I'll be interested to see kind of the murders that she gets involved in throughout the series, because I will be continuing the series because I freaking loved it. All that to say, I was able to kind of like buy into her motives and understand why she was even like wanting to get involved. If you're someone who likes small town vibes with a murder mystery, a library setting, a library furry cat. If you like the idea of cottages, because our main character lives in a cottage and I am high-key jealous. I want to live in a cozy cottage in a small town. Anyway, if any of those things sound appealing, I highly recommend checking out Checked Out, and not just because the book is called Checked Out. I ended up landing on a 4 out of 5 stars with this book. Next book I borrowed from the library and I had to return it, so I don't have it anymore, but it's called The Village Library Demon Hunting Society. That is a mouthful title and was clearly hard for me to remember. In this book, we are following another librarian. We've got Sherry, who ends up having to switch her librarian hat to a detective hat, as an alarming amount of dead bodies have begun popping up in the town. Nobody around her seems to find it that curious. They're like, yeah, whatever, people are dying. But she's like, no, it's not whatever, people are dying and we need to figure out why they're dying. When someone close to Sherry dies, and also when she finds out that her cat might be possessed, she kicks it into gear and teams up with this crew in order to figure out what's going on and also how to get her cat unpossessed, essentially. With a title like this one, I was kind of expecting my britches to be blown off while reading this book, but unfortunately, it was lackluster at best, and that makes me so sad to say. I maybe had too high of expectations going into this one, but I think my main complaint is that it just felt like there were way too many ingredients within this book, and what was cooked up was a full-on disaster. I've been really vibing with cozy mysteries lately, and I thought that this one would be a unique take because it does bring in sort of like a supernatural element, sort of a fantastical element, but I just felt like it didn't land the punch. Like, it was a swingin', but it just never had any sort of impact. Was it still fun? Yes. Like, clearly I was able to reach the finish line with this book, but did I leave it with regret after reading it? Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I did connect with the writing style, and I did like the concept of something supernatural happening in this small town. Like the demon cat, absurd. I loved it. But I think it misses the mark in getting you to sink into the story. My main complaint is that a lot of the interesting bits, we kind of just like speed through, and we never take like a pit stop to explore these little interesting things that are popping up. Like, it just feels like we are flying on by and we're just ignoring all these really interesting, cool ideas that are popping up. And I think it kind of goes back to like maybe the brainstorm board for this book having too many things on it and not having like a clear picture of what it wanted to be. There either was too many ideas that it just kind of became like this busy mess, or there just like wasn't enough time for all these ideas to be executed in a satisfying way. That's kind of how I feel about it overall. I ended up landing on a 2 out of 5 stars for this one. I would love to read a book that is similar to this one though. So if you guys have any recommendations for me of cozy mysteries that bring in sort of a fantastical element and you feel like it's done well, definitely drop me a recommendation down below in the comments, because I'm craving that, but this one just did not fulfill my craving. The idea, bangin'. The execution, not banging. My vocabulary is on fire today. Next, we've got Wormwood Abbey. I read this as an ebook. This is a cozy fantasy mystery combo. In it, we're following Edith, whose life changes forever the day that this like mystical salamander lands on her lap. Edith sets out to attend Wormwood Abbey, which is this place filled with these like unique creatures, but behind its doors are lots of secrets. And we're following Edith as she gets involved in these secrets and figuring out what exactly is going on at Wormwood Abbey. I will say that I feel like this book is a great cozy fantasy. I feel like it does a really good job of kind of having that sort of low stakes, mellowed out situation, but still having somewhat of an interesting plot and interesting things going on. Because I feel like I'm the type, when it comes to cozy fantasy, where I just don't connect with it all that well, because I need things like going on. I need interesting things happening. I just can't be like vibing out at a cafe. Like, I thought that that sounded really appealing when I first got into cozy fantasy. But then I started reading books that felt like that, where it was just very like, this is a cafe and we are serving coffee and that's the vibe. And I just really had a hard time with it. So I feel like for me, I need some interesting bits. It can be a low stakes mystery. It can be some like creatures or whatnot. And that's exactly what this book had. Like, it had that mystery element that really pulled me in. And we had some really fun and interesting creatures throughout it. So I can appreciate this book plot-wise because it does have that like chilled out, low stakes situation happening. But all the other areas for me kind of felt a little bit on the stale side of things. The characters in particular just felt a little bit uninteresting to me. me, and I just never really connected to any of them, to be honest. And I know that this is the first book in a series. I can't expect to get to know everybody on a really deep level with the first book, but I just felt like the characters felt as if they had these walls up, and I was never able to break through and really get to know them in a way where I felt connected to the story. Like, I just didn't really care about anybody, and I wanted to feel a sense of care. The main character is the one that is obviously fleshed out, and we get to know her quite a bit, but what I got to know of her, I just didn't really like. She sort of falls under the category of like, I'm so misunderstood, I'm low-key smarter than all of y'all, I'm so different and unique and special and blah and blah and blah. And it's like, girl, if you're gonna give yourself that title, at least deliver on that title. At least show us why you're deserving of that title of being so different, misunderstood, smarty pants. Like, I wanna see it. I didn't see it! Show me to me, Rachel, please! Another thing that really bothered me is that this felt like a children's book, but it's not a children's book. Like, I think it's like older YA. Like, if I remember correctly, I think the characters are in their 20s. And they just felt like children. The dialogue and the conversations between the characters, like, it just felt so much younger than what it actually was. And I had to keep reminding myself that the characters were like adults, like young adults. I think if I were to continue this series, which I don't foresee myself doing, but if I were, it would be because of the like creatures alone. Like, that was the most interesting bit of this book for me. To be honest, I feel like I could have delved even more into the creatures that were brought up. Everything else I just felt fine about, and I don't feel that pull to keep reading. If you have read this series and you know how like the rest of the books are, let me know if you think I'm missing out on anything. Otherwise, I'm probably just gonna like skippity-doo-dah-day on to the next book. I do feel like this could appeal to a lot of people, so if it sounds interesting to you, give it a shot. But otherwise, I would just skip this one. I did land on a 3 out of 5 stars, which is not a bad rating. Like, I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was fine, but it wasn't like amazing. Maybe I should give it like more of a 2.5. I'm just gonna land on a 3. You know, I feel good about the 3-star rating. We're landing there. Next up, I read The Ornithologist Field Guide to Love. Essentially, in this one, we've got rival ornithologists who are attempting to track down these magical birds. We're following our main character, Beth, who is trying to track down this rare magical bird, but oh no, what do you know? This guy named Devin has stepped into the picture, and they're rivals, and he's also looking for this magical bird. But oh no, they're also catching feelings for each other. What do you know? I feel like I'm in the unpopular lane when it comes to this book, and I really tried to reach that like greatness lane where I was loving it, but I just couldn't work my way over there. And there were certainly things that happened in this book that I thought were a lot of fun. Like, I will give it that. Like, there were times when I was like, this is a fun time. I'm enjoying myself. I love the sort of magical birds element. There's a lot of humor within this book, which I really appreciated and honestly wasn't expecting going into it. And I definitely understand the appeal of this book. I feel like a lot of people have compared this to like Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, which I definitely see that comparison. I personally prefer Emily Wilde, I think. I think if you're someone who loves historical fantasy with a bit of a goofy, lighthearted romance situation, a competition element, and some fantasy bits sprinkled throughout it, you will eat this book up if it doesn't eat you right up. I feel like this book falls under the romantasy umbrella, and I just don't think that romantasy is for me. I keep trying to kind of like break into that genre, and there have been like a few that have worked for me, but for the most part, I think that I just prefer a fantasy book that has a romance as a subplot. Like, I don't need the romance to be in the driver's seat. Like, I just don't connect with that all that much. And I think that there are times when it just is too much for me with a romance in romantasy, but I also like get why that genre exists. I get why it's a thing, and I understand that it works for a lot of people. I just don't think it's for me necessarily. So I just have to be like really hesitant when it comes to picking out romantasy books. This one unfortunately fell into the slot of being like a little bit too much for me. And for me, not to like harp on this book too much, but I feel like it fell into a bit of a cliche romance syndrome. Symptoms include predictability, overused tropes, lack of originality. For example, yes, we've got a one bed scene. We've got the enemies to lovers, rivals to lovers situation, which I feel like was also something that I really was bothered by because it just didn't do it well in my opinion. But I am also like very specific on what I want when it comes to rivals to lovers, enemies to lovers. Like, I don't want to be able to pick up on the fact that they're going to fall for each other or be down bad for each other when they first meet. Like, I need some tension. I need some button of heads. That kind of hurt. I need them to butt heads a little bit more. I need them to like argue, to fight more. Like, I need that setup. I don't need to like have them be introduced and immediately recognize the fact that like they're gonna get together. Even if it is obvious when there's going to be an enemies to lovers situation, when they're like fighting early on or fighting when they first meet or competing against each other when they first meet, I still want there to be tension. I want you to grow that tension, and I am okay with the down bad parts coming later on in the story, but you gotta make me believe that they're rivals, that they're enemies, that they're not gonna get along for a little bit. Like, it's like one of my biggest pet peeves, and I just have a hard time with it. So I felt like it kind of fell under some of that like cliche romancy bits that I just didn't really enjoy, and that's more so on me than anything, because I clearly am very specific when it comes to my preferences of romantasy. And also, let me just say, that's not to say that the romance is bad. Like, I thought it was cute, okay? Like, at the end of the day, it's a cute romance. I like the way that they connected. I was into it. But I wanted there to be more of a rivalry, I guess. That's what I wanted. That's what I was sold. And that's not what I felt like I got, personally. There might be some of you that are like, oh, I thought the rival situation was great. That's great. That means it met your preferences. It did not meet my preferences. Characters felt fine to me. I felt like Beth, a very specific type of character where she's like prim and proper and everything must be in its exact place and we must follow the rules. Devin was sort of, like I liked Devin. I just couldn't help but like recognize the fact that like he felt very cliche, very like handsome, dreamy professor that's super charming. I did enjoy like all the fantastical bits, and I do wish we would have kind of like delved deeper into that, but that's exactly what I mean when I say I just like don't know if romantasy is for me. Because like, had this just been a full-on fantasy book with a romance subplot, I think I probably would have liked it so much more. But I ended up landing on a 2.5 out of 5 stars. That's where I landed with this one. But I feel like this book appeals to a lot of people, so I don't want you to take my opinion and be like, oh, I'm not reading that book. Like, if this book sounds interesting to you, please read it. Like, I think there's a lot of people that will really love this book. It does feel similar to Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia Fairies. It just has more of a focus on like these magical birds, and we've got rivals to lovers, enemies to lovers, if you will. There's a competition, and it's interesting and fun. I am just picky. I'm gonna move on now to the last book that I have to talk about today. We're ending things on a positive note. I know that I've been a bit of a griper, but we've got some positivity here. The last book that I read is The Green Kingdom. We're following our main character Caspia, who is being forced to move to Brooklyn. Our main character really hates the city. Like, she is a country girl through and through. She does not want to move to Brooklyn, but when she gets there, when they move into their new place, she finds this dresser, and in one of the drawers there are these letters that all contain these riddles from somebody in the past. And so throughout the book, we are following her as she is going to different places in Brooklyn, trying to figure out these riddles and all these different plants that correlate with the riddles. It's an adventure that will have her solving these riddles, but also finding peace in living in a big city. This comes from the same author that brought us the Inkheart trilogy, which I've never read, but after reading this book, it makes me really want to try out that trilogy, which I've heard amazing things about that series as a whole, so I think I might dabble into that at some point, potentially. Let me know down below in the comments if you've read Inkheart and what your thoughts are on it. This was overall just like a really cute and lighthearted middle grade story. I really loved sort of the messages that were woven in throughout this book. It does read really young, so if you pick up this book, just know that it like feels like really young middle grade, but like it's still fun, it's still lighthearted, and you go on this like really fun adventure, sort of like a scavenger hunt with the main character as she's given all these riddles and these clues, and she sort of has to like unlock this mystery along the way. And like that element of the story is so much fun, but you have all these really great messages of friendship. Friendship was like a big one that kind of popped up because we see how our main character has to leave behind some of her best friends when she's moving to this new city. And we see how like you don't have to sacrifice those friendships just because you're moving to a new city. Like, you are still able to find ways to connect with your friends that you sort of like left behind and maintain those friendships, but also you're able to like unlock these new magical friendships. I feel like that is something that a lot of kids have to deal with when they like move from one city to another, or one state to another, or one country to another country. You kind of have this like fear that you're going to lose touch with your friends. And like, sure, that is something that happens to a lot of people. You find yourself in a spot where you're just not able to stay connected to those people people. But I feel like in the times that we live in currently, like technology is so amazing and it's so much easier to stay connected to sort of the people that we are leaving behind when we move. So I loved seeing that kind of message of like, you can maintain those friendships and also have new friendships that are just as fulfilling and just as magical. I loved that aspect. We also like see our main character start to kind of like open up the idea of like moving to this city and living in this big city and all the sort of like positive sides of moving to New York. Because when she first gets there, like she is so upset about living in a city, like she doesn't want to be there. But I think throughout the process, we see her sort of like realize that there's a lot that a city has to offer, and that comes through the sort of adventure that she's going on, and I loved seeing that aspect. And I think the biggest message that was woven throughout this book is this idea of being uncomfortable and how that's okay. It can be good to be uncomfortable. It can challenge us and help us grow. I'm not saying that like you have to always live in this uncomfortable state in order to grow and become a different person or to like level up, but I think it is good to push yourself into uncomfortable situations at times, because sometimes through that discomfort we can learn something new about ourselves, or we can just like grow through that situation. And so it's good to sometimes just allow yourself to be in those positions. So really love this book. It also has these like really adorable illustrations throughout it. It's very plant focused. Like a lot of the riddles have to do with plants and gardens. Obviously it's called The Green Kingdom, so that makes sense. But overall, really enjoyed this. I ended up landing on a 4 out of 5 stars. Those were 5 books that I read recently and my yappy thoughts about them. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know down below in the comments if you have read any of these books and what your thoughts are on them. If not, then again, just yap to me about a book that you read recently, especially if it's one that you think that I would enjoy picking up and reading. Let me know down below in the comments. Also, let me know down below in the comments your thoughts on romantasy as well. Like, I need to know other people's opinions, because it is a genre that I don't think that I'm just gonna like completely like block necessarily, but I am going to be hesitant when it comes to picking up romantasy books moving forward. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more bookish content from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe or go and hit that bell icon, and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope your day is bright, that tomorrow is brighter. Keep reading what your heart desires, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye-o!